Fear of the Dark.
I'm from a small town in Iowa that roughly has around 7,000 people residing there. When you grow up in a small town, you become really resourceful at finding things to do for fun. Urban legends are plentiful and always fun to hear. I don't live too far from our capital city. As I got older, I started venturing into the city. I made a lot of friends, and they loved hearing stories of me growing up in such a small town and found the things we did for fun wild. They would beg me to take them to a cemetery that is about 40 minutes from my house. It's a place that I had only been to a handful of times. I will admit, during the daytime it's very innocuous, but by night, it becomes very creepy. I will state this now. I'm not into the supernatural. If something creepy happens to me, I will look for a logical explanation. If you tell me a haunted story, I'll just roll my eyes in disbelief. But there is no explanation for the situation that happened to me and my friend that night. So one evening, some of my friends from the city give me a call and they wanted to take me to this cemetery. I agreed. So they make it down to me around 8 p.m. We stand around having a few smokes and catching up with one another. There was about 5 of us in total. Around 9 p.m. we leave. Part of the trip is on a paved highway, but the rest is on a gravel road about 6 to 10 miles to the graveyard. We took my friend's new car at the time. It was a couple months old. It was a reddish maroon Pontiac G6. If you have ever drove on a limestone gravel road, your car gets covered in a fine white dust. This will be important later. We make it to the cemetery. The entrance is a large cast iron gate. We go in, and I show them this headstone. It's very large, from the early 20th century, and it has a very creepy saying on it. Something like, "Where you are now, I once was, and soon you will be where I am." I found out it's pretty common on old headstones. My friends are in agreement that it's really creepy. They asked me if anything has happened to me out here. I said no, not really. My car once overheated by driving, but that's about it. Now this gravestone sets in the last row facing west to the cemetery. To the south, about 50 yards, are a whole row of children's graves. There's small little gravestones just big enough to fit a name on them. I said, well, urban legend says, if you run between those gravestones zigzagging through them, you'll die. My friend started talking trash, telling me that's the dumbest thing he's ever heard. He yells he's not afraid of some stupid dead babies. I said, I don't know, man. I always heard that when so-and-so did it, they were dead a week later. He calls me an idiot, then proceeds to run through the headstones. He gets halfway and says he can care less about the curse, but he doesn't complete the run and comes back walking. We joked with him and asked him if he was too scared to do it. He said yes. I got creeped out halfway through. We went back to the entrance and had a smoke and shot the breeze for a minute. I was ready to leave because I hadn't had dinner and I was hungry. It's around 11 p.m. and we head back to town where I live. On the south side of town, there is a McDonald's. So we pull in and we head in to have dinner. When we left, the car was under a street light and it was well lit. When we get up to it, a friend noticed that there were small handprints all over the car, no more than 20 of them. They were the size of a 2-year-old's, but not all were the same size. but all were very small. They were on top of the trunk as well as on top of the roof. You can see them because they were outlined in the dust from the gravel road. I remember looking really close, and you can clearly see fingerprints in the white dust highlighting every single crease in the fingerprints. This happened to be the weirdest thing I've ever seen. There is no explanation for this. If they were there before we went out, they would have been covered by the dust. We couldn't figure out how a kid would have gotten on top of his car. There weren't any kids around. Plus, it was too late for kids that young to be out that time. We tried to come out with any reason that they would be there, but nothing made sense. I told my friend that ran through the graves he'd better watch out. To this day, if I bring it up to him, he wouldn't hear a word of it. He would leave the room or get angry that you brought it up. And we're close to 20 years since it all happened, and we still, to this day, have no idea how the handprints got there. When I was in my preteens, I visited my friend's aunts with his family. It was a 2-week summer vacation. The first 3 or 4 nights, we would wake up to broken glass near our alcohol cabinet. Everyone in the house, the 7 of us, just ignored it because it was creepy, so it was only mentioned in the morning. It stopped for about a week, and I totally forgot about it since I was having so much fun enjoying my vacation. It was around this time that I noticed the aunt was an alcoholic. I rarely seen her without a drink in her hand. I was never exposed to alcoholics before, so I assumed they were all sloppy drunks, but she wasn't. She seemed very depressed and low-spirited. So about 1.5 weeks into the vacation, while everyone was asleep and I was watching TV, I happened to look into the parlor where the alcohol cabinet was from the living room, and I saw this demonic creature pacing in circles. It had to be at least 7 foot tall and very wide. Its face came out like a werewolf. It did not know that I saw it. I was so terrified I choked on air and couldn't breathe. I knew I shouldn't have let it know that I'd seen it while this was happening. So I closed my eyes and slowly turned around and tried my best to breathe as slowly as possible to not draw any attention even while choking on air. I eventually caught my breath, and I did not move or open my eyes until the morning. I never told anyone that story until years later, and my friend told me he's seen it too. It was a normal Tuesday night. After work, I walked to our local pub for food and drinks with some work friends. We meet up every Tuesday night and go to the same place. This night was different. It was very cloudy and there was a chance of rain. I live close to work and the pub, so I usually walk. After getting to the pub, I sat with my friends, and since I was the last person to arrive, I had to buy the first round of drinks. We usually don't take shots since we all still have to work the rest of the week. As soon as I take my first sip, I notice something out of the ordinary, or someone. I notice a beautiful woman sitting at the end of the bar. Usually, we were the only people in the pub drinking, so this was odd. I take a good look at her and I'm instantly smitten. She has the most beautiful strawberry red hair, piercing brown eyes, snow pale skin, and an emerald green floral sundress. My friends started giving shit for staring, and, to my surprise, she was staring and smiling back at me. I wouldn't say I'm an ugly man, but I'm also no model. I'm average height and build, nothing special. My friends are trying to hype me up to go and talk to her. So after a couple of more drinks of my beer, I walked over to her and introduced myself. "Hi, my name is Paul. It's nice to meet you." "Hello, I'm Caroline. It's a pleasure to meet you, Paul." Her voice was as sweet as frosting. It was soft and just the right amount of quiet. We get to talking and she convinces me to take shots with her. She orders 6 rounds of Jack Daniels for the 2 of us. By the time the bartender was done pouring, I noticed my friends were gone. That's okay. We never stay too late anyway. We take the shots and I start to feel tipsy. It's safe to say I have no tolerance. We order 1 more round of shots and I'm done for the night. I'm as drunk as I allow myself to be. We talk for a few more minutes and she invites me to her place. I'm reluctant since I have to work in the morning and I'm not the one to have one-night stands. But this woman has a way with words. Caroline says she doesn't live too far from here. She actually lives in the same apartments as I do. I was surprised since I've never seen her before. But at this point, I'm too drunk to care. I followed her to an apartment, and thankfully it's not raining yet. We stumble inside of her apartment and we start making out. We kissed for a good couple of minutes and all I could think was, man, work is gonna suck tomorrow. She pulls away from me and says in a sweet voice, "I'm gonna go make us a couple of drinks. You stay here, handsome." I do as she says and starts looking around her apartment when I notice it's oddly empty. In the living room, there's just a couch I'm sitting on and a very long glass coffee table. It looks like it's not originally meant to be a coffee table, but I think nothing of it. She comes back with the drinks and wants to have a chugging contest. This is when I get a sinking feeling in my stomach, then I hear a noise. It sounded like a metal pipe hitting the floor. I tried to ask what it was, but she put the red Solo cup to my lips and I started to drink. Something's not right. The drink tastes bitter and the texture was kind of grainy. I finished the drink and I noticed Caroline isn't on the couch anymore. I got up to find her and I overheard her talking to someone in the bedroom. I peeked in and there's 2 very large men dressed like they were about to perform surgery. I looked next to them and there's surgical tools on the bed. I tried to run, but right at that moment, I passed out. I wake up freezing cold with the afternoon sun blaring in my face. I feel a sharp pain in my back and my left eye. I tried to get up, but I'm too weak. I notice I'm in a bathtub full of ice. I say to myself, damn, this broad stole my organs. When I fully come to, I use all of my strength to get out of the bathtub and crawl to the front door. I'm screaming in agony and I can see a trail of blood following me. I manage to stand up and open the door and yell for help before passing out again. When I wake up in the hospital, I hear machines beeping and people talking around me. I ask what happened. The nurse who was talking with the police says that one of my kidneys was dissected and even my left eye. I started to cry in disbelief. You're going to have to be on dialysis until you get a donor since your healthy kidney was badly damaged, said the doctor. The police approached me and I told them the whole story. They looked shocked and then they ran out of the room. The nurse looked at me and was confused. Then the cops come back with someone. "Is this Caroline, sir?" One of the cops asked. "Holy crap, yes that is," I yelled as loud as I could in my condition. "How did you find her?" "She works here as a custodian," says the nurse. Caroline looks angry and scared. She tries to run for it and the cops tackle her. As she's being cuffed, she yells in a loud, sharp voice, "You should have died in that apartment." After the cops cuff her, they take her away. I'm in the hospital for a couple weeks. Thankfully, after my family heard about what happened, they all got tested to see who would be the perfect match for a transplant. I have both kidneys again, and I made a full recovery. My work threw a welcoming back party for me when I came back. My friends were all very apologetic for leaving me with that psychopath. I have no hard feelings towards them, but the lesson I've learned was to never follow a woman home for a one-night stand. I grew up in a very paranormal, active home in East Bethel, Minnesota in the 1990s. As I mentioned in my previous post, this home had every type of ghost you can think of. A shadow man in a hat and a trench coat, another shadow figure that bizarrely danced down the hallway, an unknown man in fishing gear, a doppelganger of my father, giggling girls, and many other unseen entities. We experienced all kinds of unexplained electrical malfunctions, like the dishwasher starting itself despite not being used in years, radios playing and changing stations seemingly on their own, and broken lights suddenly turning on by themselves for no apparent reason. There were also times there would be knocking on the walls and explosive pounding on the front door, all without any plausible cause. This particular incident occurred in the summer of 1997. I was 5 years old, and I was just about to turn 6. My youngest sister and I were sleeping in what was supposed to be our big girl bedroom. It was previously an unused room in the basement my mom had decorated for us in a ballerina Barbie theme when she was expecting our baby brother. She wanted the baby's room to be close to hers. So we were evicted from our cozy bedroom upstairs to the cold and neglected basement downstairs. My mom had added some Barbie sticker decals to the wall and splurged on a queen-size Barbie comforter and pillow shams to make the uncomfortable room seem more exciting to a 4 and a 5-year-old. For some reason, me and my sister were sharing a bed in this new room, even though we had our own beds when we were in the upstairs room. Despite all of my mom's efforts and the assurance of my sister's physical proximity to the downstairs room always made me anxious. I would beg my little sister to let us keep our small TV on for comfort, but she hated the staticky feeling that emitted from the television that she seemed ultra-sensitive to. One early morning between 3:30 and 3:45 a.m., I woke up to an eruption of chaos happening around me. The first thing I became aware of was that my little 5-year-old body was bouncing up and down off of the mattress without my control. I was laying on my back with my arms slightly out to my sides. My knees were bent, sticking up in the air, with my feet flat on the mattress. My body was bouncing as if someone was quickly jumping up and down, repeatedly, on the mattress very close to me towards my feet. The next thing I noticed was how dark the room was. It was always dark when the TV and the lights were off, but this was different. It was so dark I couldn't make out the outline of the door less than 10 feet away from us. Meanwhile, the FM radio plugged in on the shelf above our heads was playing an unknown song at a volume that felt like it was going to shatter our eardrums. This unknown melody pierced the dark room like an alarm, causing panic and confusion. My sister was in the bed laying on her side facing me. She was not bouncing up and down like I was. She was shaking my arm and crying. She was begging and pleading for me to wake up and stop everything that was happening. Without even taking a moment to think about how or why any of this was happening, I sprang up to my feet, and while standing on a bed, I pulled the power cord out from the wall. Silence immediately enveloped the dark room and seemed to bring calm. At this time, I didn't know the song that the clock radio had been screaming out, but as I grew up, I learned that it was the Police 1980s hit, Every Breath You Take. It took me 15 years after this experience to appreciate how creepy that song was, especially in the context of this event in a home plagued by invisible entities. After I unplugged the radio, somehow my little sister was able to go right back to sleep without so much as a peep about what we just experienced. I don't remember doing so, but I know I went to my parents' bedroom that night and had laid down on the floor on my mom's side of the bed. I remember just laying there wondering what I just experienced. Good evening, everyone. This is Yuri K, and this is the end of the video. If you happen to like this content, please like and share amongst your friends and family. Make sure you comment down below and give suggestions on how to make this page better. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. It's free, and you can always change it in the future. Also, make sure you hit the notification bell so that way you can never miss our content. You happen to have any story suggestions? Please send it to my email, fearofthedarkstories@gmail.com. But until then, you guys stay safe out there. And remember to always be afraid of the dark.